Good evening. The Ranter is back to go into yet another rambling diatribe of the news of the day. And I tried doing this 2 nights ago, upon the time when we heard of Hunter defying a subpoena because he wanted to testify publicly. And later on that day, that the House voted with all Republicans on hand to officially open an impeachment inquiry onto President Joe Biden. Now, I was getting into the video, and my blood was up, and I was kind of pissed, and I was really showing it. And I guess when I get too emotional, the system itself can't handle it, so it kind of crashed on me at the 25-minute mark. And when I fixed the issues that it was, I could not save what I did. So that's gone. So I'm going to try to be more measured, because my system might cry. And go into what I was going to say in that previous video that did not work. So, let's start with the Hunter Biden stuff, where he came out to the Capitol on the day that he was supposed to testify in secret closed-door proceedings for his deposition for the House Republicans, and he decided not to. He came to Washington willing to testify in his deposition, but he wanted it to be in a public forum. Now, before we go into details of why he didn't want to just adhere to what they wanted and go into a private proceedings, and why he defied them to wanting to do it publicly, on an opinion basis, for over a year at least, in terms of Representative Comer's involvement, he was on Fox News every other day, especially on Hannity, to go into all the little corrupted details of what he believes he's investigating into Hunter Biden. A lot of those times where he showed up on Hannity, he didn't really have anything but supposition. But, that was enough to coin the whole Biden crime family phrase. And then we get the one bombshell of a check for $250,000 going to Joe Biden that was sent to him by his brother. But that was a smoking gun. Smoking gun when they did have a public session on Hunter Biden. A Democrat challenged Comer on his, was, well, didn't your own brother give you $250,000? Well, that's not really relevant. And then his voice got really high, and then he got really animated and dramatic about it. So that was like the last time we saw like a real public session, according to this. And then the next bombshell, the next smoking gun, the nail in the coffin, was another payment, this time by the evil Hunter Biden, who paid Joe Biden $4,000. So that was it. That was the connection right there. That he paid back Joe Biden in assisting him on a truck loan. A son paying back his father for helping him buy a truck. I'm sure no one listening to this little piddly video could ever relate to that, where a parent helps out a child, a son, adult son. I'm sure that goes beyond the annals and anals of the imagination of certain people. Wow. Dead to rights right there. Since Trump's perfect call to Zelensky, 6 years, the name Hunter Biden has been brought up over and over and over and over and over and over again. If it isn't a laptop, then it is his drug abuse, and then to what could pertain inside the laptop. Just tune into Fox News, where we will imagine what it is in the laptop, where they want to open up the laptop and divulge the laptop. And here I thought that Rudy Giuliani had the laptop when he showed the laptop, when it turns out that laptop wasn't even the laptop that was Hunter Biden's. I have been consistent in saying that if you found wrongdoings in somebody, investigated, if those investigations yield to wrongdoings, then indict, then put to trial, and then let the system go, guilt or innocent, and let the chips fall where they may. In terms of investigations, of legitimate investigations into Hunter Biden, yielded him having federal tax issues and a gun charge. Those are legit. And he should face the consequences for it, and he is. So let's not claim that I'm trying to being defending of Hunter Biden, blindly. I think that's one of the things that we've been having a problem with in the past two presidential administrations from Trump and Biden, and it is this blind rush where we are going on assumptions before the facts. For Democrats, I think we could claim that we've been guilty of that during the Trump administration, during the Russian investigations. It didn't help that Trump trips over himself in order to be pro-Putin, that he makes sure that he's always said a positive thing about Putin, that he never tried to criticize Putin. When he had the press, that one infamous day in the White House, he allowed the Russian press to go in, and he denied the American press into the Oval Office, and then turns to find out that he was showing them Israeli top-secret documents. Because he wanted them to see how smart he was. See, I'm so important, I am so smart, they show me these things. See, look! Which is the same thing that he does when he has those top secret and secret documents that he whisked away to the safety of the Mar-a-Lago bathroom, where he was showing people documents, that we have recordings of him verbally showing people these documents. But be that as it may, from 6 years starting to now, Hunter Biden's life has been under the microscope, and all of his sins that we know of laid bare for the purposes of political mockery and derision. Let me remind you of why he fell into drugs. He fell into drugs mourning the death of his brother Beau. And on those drugs, as he himself said, he acted irresponsibly. He acted stupidly. He did reckless shit. Again, I'm sure no flawed, frail, mortal human being can ever relate to that. Right? That is just an anomaly that can only possibly exist in Hunter Biden. So he's instantly the bad guy for these things happening. Okay? Because, again, so they wanted to pull him in to do his deposition in secret. Why this is such a bit of an issue is because those people who were witnesses that they pulled in for the depositions concerning Hunter Biden and concerning Joe Biden, the people weren't really, since we didn't really see the interactions back and forth, the House committee chairs were able to control the narrative when they walked out the room, where they can claim the mannerisms of the person that they were interviewing, and of the depositions and what they saw and what they heard, though we have no benefit of seeing it ourselves, so we can't tell. So it is interesting, in fact. It is also interesting to note that they were compelling Hunter to do this deposition, subpoenaed him to do this, compelled him to do this. Comer said that he would drop everything to do this, which means that if he wanted to testify publicly, they would be okay to testify publicly for him to come in to testify. However, when within that month on up, well, on the eve of it, within the past week, when Hunter Biden was saying for the past week that he was going to come and he wanted to come and testify publicly, Comer and Jordan and the others were saying that, oh, no, he's going to violate the subpoena. He's going to violate it. He's going, whatever's. He's going to defy them. He was wanting to testify publicly. God knows what you all were doing to Hunter Biden's name publicly. If it wasn't on shows like Hannity, or shows on Fox News, or shows on Newmax, or OAN, it was in committee session hearings on camera when Marjorie Taylor Greene decided to show naked pictures of Hunter Biden. During the press conference, when the House Republican chairs, Comer and Jordan, were all pouting that Hunter wasn't going to go to this super duper secret session, and how they were going to, they were thinking about contempt citations, they had to stop their press conference abruptly when Marjorie Taylor Greene decided to pipe up, well, I wanted to ask questions about, sex trafficking with him. And that's when the two of them kind of made a face and was like, oh, we're done here. And they walked away, and you should see her face. Not fair. It would have been fun for her to say those questions in public, because she damn sure would. There is an interesting break from reality in politics. You can rail against somebody for years, trash them for years, using them as your political scapegoat, your target for your minions, everyone to clap as you make fun of them, or deride them, or insult them, or claim that he is the blame for your lot in life. That you're openly investigating them for something. We don't know which, but something. Stack up suppositions, blame them for the firing of a prosecutor in Ukraine when the entire European West, including the U.S., including members of the Republican Party, were wanting him gone because of him being soft on corruption, Russian corruption, I might add. But let's ignore all that because he was kind of trying to investigate Hunter Biden for Burisma. And that was the reason why that Joe Biden used his influence as vice president to fire him. Not for all that other stuff that the rest of the world were wanting him to be gone. It was that one little thing. That was the real reason. All that other stuff, those other countries, they don't matter. Fox News tried to have the former president of Ukraine on to try to make him concur upon that prosecutor's firing was because of the direct intervention of Joe Biden on behalf of his son, and that former president of Ukraine stunned the Fox News analyst or the Fox News host into silence because he says the prosecutor was insane, that wasn't the reason why he was fired. And it was like the Fox host apparently didn't do any research or anything, which is a rapidly convenient and obvious thing that seems to happen in news media and the people and social media and such so forth and so forth. Hunter Biden wanted to testify publicly. Comer and the boys wanted him to testify privately so they could control the narrative. They've been reviling him, to the House floor, social medias, on their favorite forms of news media, where Hunter Biden is the running joke. Hunter Biden spoke for 5 minutes and 40-some seconds in his speech, where he absolutely gutted the House Republicans, gutted Donald Trump for having his name in his fucking mouth for 6 years, and all for the attempt to damage his father, who is now President of the United States. In that speech, he made them out to be political hacks and cowards. So much so that by the next hour, every Republican with a phone was saturating Twitter, trying to spin this away from the obvious. He's defying the subpoena! He's defying the subpoena! He's running away! Why are you running away? Because they showed clip of his press meeting, his press speech, why he was not going to show up for the secret meeting, and they only showed him leaving. They didn't happen to show what he was saying from the 5 minutes and 40-some seconds, but him leaving. In this one speech, this most reviled person of the right, Hunter Biden, exposed them for all this being a political machination and insensitive, inhuman calculation. To which in his speech said that they sought out not only to hurt him, hurt his wife, hurt his children, hurt their family, all in the name of going after Joe Biden. House Republicans say that they're going to look into contempt. It's funny how that is supposed to be some kind of doubt. Why don't they just say that we're going to hold him in contempt, like right there, on the spot? In a way, they should. Because I had a conversation with my friend, and we're two perspectives and 2 points of view on this. Regardless of how you think and what you think the justifications are for Hunter Biden not showing up in that secret deposition, he did defy a subpoena. He did do that. Whether you agree with his reasons or not, the fact remains is that he defied the subpoena. So should he be held in contempt? If he defied a subpoena, and that is the measure and punitive avenue of what happens for doing that, then yes, hold him in contempt. This is the point where I would bring up Jim Jordan of how he defied his subpoena and the hypocrisy of that. But when it comes to that, when it comes to thinking of that, the word hypocrisy has lost its fucking meaning. Because we have seen so much hypocrisy from right and left over these past few years, at the very least of this. If we thought harder than maybe a minute, we can span that hypocrisy back as many years as we would desire. But it's not as bad as it is now. So it's no point to mention that Jim Jordan defied a subpoena and continues to defy a subpoena, because it doesn't matter. What somebody says in the past no longer matters in the present. Precedence doesn't matter. Memory doesn't matter, because they want you all to have short-term memory loss. To have the memory of a gerbil. And they certainly don't want you to remember that time in high school or in college when you were in civics class. We'll get into that in a moment. So hypocrisy, you bring that up, it doesn't matter. Because they will say one thing one time, and you try to refer back to them on that, they will just look at you like they have no idea what the hell you're talking about, because they don't care. What they're saying now is the important part. For Jim Jordan, Jim Jordan could be sitting in a committee meeting where Eric Swalwell or Adam Schiff would bring up how he had defied a subpoena while they're talking about Hunter Biden and subpoenaing him, and if he defies that, they could tell him. They could point to him. They could look at him across the aisle. Jim Jordan's not making eye contact. He's smirking and laughing with some appointee right next to him, talking about other things because he's not listening to them. Because it doesn't matter. Hypocrisy doesn't matter. See? I'm trying to not be pissed off, but here I am. So, did Hunter Biden defy a subpoena? Yes. Should be subject to contempt? Yes. He defied a subpoena. Whether you agree with his reasonings doesn't change the fact that he did it, and that is the course of action to respond to that. Whether that happens or not, it's up to Republicans. They're on the majority. Very thin majority, but majority. Speaking of which, they took that majority because I guess they needed to feel better about themselves, because on the same day where Hunter did not yield to them going into a super duper secret meeting where they would control the narrative coming out of that meeting, all the House Republicans were on hand to make sure that they voted on the impeachment inquiry. So there will be an official inquiry into whether or not there should be an impeachable impeachment of Joe Biden. There's an old 1980s Wendy's ad where a lovely old lady was looking at a burger and going, "Where's the beef?" I think it was for competition's burger, and that was, where's the beef? Because Wendy's had the beef. But that is the running line here, is that what are you impeaching Joe Biden on, or what are you looking to impeach Joe Biden on? They're voted to look into what they can find. If this is hauntingly, awkwardly echoing something about the Trump administration and Democrats, it should. Because we can have to admit to that. Because we unfortunately did the same thing. We were jumping ahead of the facts. We made assumptions because of his behavior and because of what we saw on the ground. But there wasn't facts that you can point to, and the media certainly wasn't helping with that because they were running with the assumptions. The same thing as Fox News and the others are doing that with Biden now. Because again, for the media, it is not about, what's no longer about for the media. It's no longer about the facts that they should present to you for you to decide for themselves. It is for them for ratings. For them to take a piece of news from a left-leaning news outlet or the right-leaning news outlet taking the same piece of news and spinning it to the directions that they want their audience to be receptive to. To have analysts trying to interpret it for you. One of the things that pissed me off during the Trump administration from the news media, from the left-leaning news media, is all the coulds. Trump could be caught with this. Trump could be doing that. Trump could face these consequences. Could is not reality. I could be an astronaut. I'm not. I could be. But I'm not. But I could be. I could be in space right now. I'm not. But I heard that. I heard that over the Trump administration from the left-leaning media on, Trump being in violation of the Emoluments Clause. Trump being in violation of the Logan Act. And, again, if that was all reality, if that was true, then why didn't anyone run with it? Political calculation is why. One of the slight good things I will say about the Trump administration and Trump himself, of what he had done, is that him as president shattered the illusions of the presidency, shattered the illusions of our political process, because we had laid down for hundreds of years, from the Constitution on up, various laws, various rules of conduct, laws that are not to be broken. He stepped to that line, stepped his toe over that line multiple times, sometimes stepped over that line, and defied anyone to do something about it, and no one did for fear of politics. So, it is hard to come back from that. It is hard to reseal that barrier from reality and what is the perception of reality. Certainly politics and political courage or lack thereof certainly fueled those who were sycophants of Trump, when beforehand that you would have thought they were, institutionally based, but, middle of the road Republicans. I mean, people who had their hair on fire were always going to be one thing, but they were there beforehand. But, people who were, generally speaking, just sane, who believed what they believed, but they still believed in the system, just sort of threw that out the window when they hitched their political fortunes to Trump. So they're going to have this impeachment inquiry for Joe Biden. When asked, again, what are the crimes? What is the high crime and misdemeanors? Let me see. Hopefully this will work when this thing not shut off on me. Let's see if we can try to detail that a bit, because I'm going to tell you from a Washington Post article of an interaction between a Democratic congressman and a Republican congressman, which unfortunately I'm going to butcher both of their names, so forgive me. They're not going to see me because I'm a blip on YouTube, but forgive me. Okay, now, from Washington Post, a revealing exchange on the GOP's speculation impeachment inquiry. This came out on the 13th, which was 2 days ago. It's perhaps a little too simplistic to cast the impeachment inquiry of President Biden, which the House will vote to formalize Wednesday, as a Seinfeldian impeachment about nothing. Republicans have at the very least put forward a broad theoretical case for how Biden's actions could conceivably constitute corrupt foreign influence peddling. But at this point, it's almost entirely speculative. And key assertions they built their inquiry on has been undermined by evidence or been outright debunked. Perhaps nothing was driven home just how speculative and unwieldy it is, like a key exchange at the House hearing Tuesday. House Rules Committee was considering whether to advance a vote on the formal impeachment inquiry on the House floor, which it did along party lines. In the course of the debate, Representative Joe, here's the first name I'm going to butcher, Neguse, Neguse, had a pretty basic question for his Republican colleagues. Quote, "What is the specific constitutional crimes that you are investigating?" he asks. He asked Representative Guy, this is even worse, Reschenthalier. I'm going to call him Representative Guy. Forgive me, guys. And gals. But not guys. I mean, Guy. Never mind. Neguse, who served as a House prosecutor during President Trump's first impeachment trial, pressed again. "And what is the crime you are investigating?" Guy responded merely, high crimes and misdemeanors and bribery. It was a reference to the constitutional threshold for impeachment, not a specific offense. "What high crimes and misdemeanor are you investigating?" Neguse asked. Look, once I get time, I will explain what we're looking at," says Guy. That there wasn't an easy, concise answer available to Guy was telling. The Republicans have indeed struggled to explain specifically what is the inquiry about. They've mostly focused on Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings without being able to link to his father, President Biden, to them in any concrete way. When confronted with the lack of evidence of the president's wrongdoing, they've sometimes acknowledged that it doesn't really exist, while saying the inquiry is needed to find the evidence. Asking what constitutional offenses alleged still seems to be a similarly simple question. Yet, when Guy did get the time to expound shortly after the exchange, it wasn't so clear what the inquiry was about. Was there any reason to believe anything implicated Biden? Guy began pointing to Biden's efforts to get Ukraine's former top prosecutor, Viktor Shokin, fired, which I explained. The rest of the Western European world wanted him fired, as did the United States, as did certain Republicans. But let's go for that. Quote, "We have him on tape, dead to rights, bragging about shutting off aid to Ukraine in order to get a prosecutor, who's actually probably the one guy in the government that wasn't corrupt. That guy going after the Ukrainian energy firm Burisma, which his son sat on the board of Burisma," Guy said. "Quite amazing." This indeed, quite an amazing summary. The Republicans have regularly suggested that then Vice President Joe Biden's push was meant to benefit his son. The problem is that this was not just an initiative of Biden's. Shokin's ouster was wildly sought by other Western nations, and Shokin didn't appear to be actually scrutinizing Burisma at the time. A key witness Republicans has hailed former Hunter Biden's business partners, Devon Archer, has testified about how Burisma's team in Washington cast Shokin as an asset rather than a liability. But Guy truly takes it to another level by calling Shokin probably the one guy in the government that wasn't corrupt. That is diametrically opposed to how much of the West, including Republican members of Congress, described the situation back then. There was a chorus of alleging Shokin was too soft on corruption and needed to go because of it. Guy went on to cite millions of foreign dollars that went to Biden's family and $250,000 in direct payments to Joe Biden from those family members. Except virtually all of that money appears to be loan repayments between family members, rather than proceeds of a foreign business deals. Sorry I'm getting loud, but this is where I'm at right now. Representative Chip Roy, that's an easy one to say, echoed that his own response to Neguse saying that the question is before us, I think, is whether President Biden used his office for personal gain or his family's gain, whether there was influence peddling involved, whether there was international dollars flowing to the president as vice president or as a private citizen after leaving office of the vice presidency, unquote. There may be valid grounds for impeachment in that list, just not grounds that have actually been substantiated as the House takes this historic step. Indeed, there appears to be less evidence to substantiate this impeachment inquiry than there has been for any of its predecessors, including Trump's too. Even the GOP's own impeachment hearings in September devolved into witnesses saying the evidence of impeachable offenses wasn't there. At another point, immediately after Negus's grilling, Guy seemed to get at the crux of the matter. He pointed to his opposition to Trump's impeachment. Quote, "Now that we have a situation where the standard of impeachment has been lowered to such a degree that, again, it's merely a point of political exercise," he said. He quickly added, not that this is a political exercise. Not that this is a political exercise, but the bar has indeed been lowered. Okay. Yeah. See, that's where we're at in this impeachment thing. They are on a fishing expedition, and they needed to be in an inquiry to get on this fishing expedition when they could have been fishing all along and then had the evidence to take to the inquiry so that then they would then decide to impeach. So they're going in with this inquiry on the fishing expedition that they were fishing all this time. You can't make this stuff up. You could in a time when we were sane, when this was still a sane country where left and right could be at oppositions with each other, but it was over policy. You know, we're bygone the days when Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan would have their fights, over policy, but then later, when business hours were over, they would go and get that proverbial drink together. So here's the point that we're going in this with. We're going at this with so many multiple points of view, like concerning, let's say, Hunter Biden. Where I hear of the point of view of that Hunter Biden being one of these rich guys that are just going to skate because of his daddy. That whatever bad things he did, he's going to get off. He'll skate. He'll have his benefits of this. My point of view is that Hunter Biden's had his name on the lips of people that wanted to hurt his father for 6 years. The point of the perfect call to Zelensky was that he was implying that he was going to trade the defensive missiles that he would send if only y'all would just investigate Hunter Biden over there, because I've been hearing a lot of bad things over there and that doesn't seem good. Couldn't have this in any other conversation, but a conversation that would stake on the defense of Ukraine, who at the time they had wondered if there would be an invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Didn't happen yet, but it did. It went to the point where the Trump administration made the assertion through their diplomats and their acting diplomats, because they seem to have a lot of acting in positions as opposed to actually having positions, because then responsibility. But they just wanted them to say that they were investigating. They didn't really need to investigate. Just say it. Say it publicly. Say it publicly that they're investigating Hunter Biden. That's all that matters. Perception. So one thing I will always credit Donald Trump being is that he is a savant when it comes to perception, because perception for him, what he projects, is reality for his minions that believe every word he says, or at least are entertained enough to go along with what he says, as opposed to the reality on the ground. The same thing was said during the election. Say that Joe Biden's under investigation. You don't have to do it, but say that you're investigating him. Say that you're investigating his son. Make sure the Hunter Biden laptop is on the minds of everyone every other day you turn on the news on Fox News or on social media. Let the speculation run wild. Let the opinions be such that people will bob their heads and those opinions become fact in terms of perception. You're coming into looking at Hunter Biden in the negative, you will just see what he did on the Capitol steps as a negative. Right or wrong, here or gone, you are already operating on him just in the worst possible light that you could see him at. You may have watched James Comer, that the only reason we know his name is because of this, because he is trying to desperately hold on to his 15 minutes of fame. He's made his name off of Hunter Biden in his investigation. That's why he goes on to Fox News every other day, as opposed to, actually working as a congressman, but going on Hannity every other day, just to feed, just put little pecks, a little feed out of suppositions and assumptions and maybes. Oh, we see, Biden crime family, evidence, maybe. We have this. I have this piece of paper. It's on here. It's right here. The evidence is right here. Right. Oh, you want to see? What? Nope. Not until you promise that I come on next week. Okay. Next week? Oh, here it is. No, not quite yet. I mean, how many times have we heard that there was mishaps? Like, witnesses disappearing when they didn't really disappear. Evidence disappearing. Didn't really disappear. Much like the documentation of the Russian investigation that seemed to disappear when Trump left office that we heard about the past day. Huh? Russiagate? Yeah, that was a hoax. Yeah. In the end, if Hunter Biden did wrong in terms of that federal tax case that he's going to have, Comer saying that indictment was going to save Hunter. Yeah, if Hunter Biden is found guilty, he'd be going to prison for 17 years. That's fucking saving. The political hackness is astounding. And when you listen to him talk and his voice gets a little bit higher, that's when you know he's desperate. That's when he gets flustered. Why don't you just believe me that they're just evil and corrupt? Ew. But I'm gonna land this before it gets to be an hour. I didn't realize it was gonna go this long. But the one last thing I'm gonna go with this is gonna go back towards the impeachment inquiry, or full-on impeachment when we get there. Let's talk about timing. Talk about political metrics. They take this from the inquiry to the impeachment. They put the impeachment to a vote on the House, and it somehow passes, which is not saying that there's not a bad risk of that. That can happen. That can very well happen. It goes to the Senate. It dies in the Senate. Once again, these people who will, if they impeach him in the House, will pat themselves on the back and congratulate themselves and clink champagne glasses and tell people on social media that they did it, that they impeached him. They don't want to mention the fact that conviction comes in the Senate. They don't want to mention the fact that Joe Biden will not be convicted in the Senate. Why? It's not only that there are Democrats in the majority in the Senate, The vote itself to convict on an impeachment requires 2/3 of the Senate. So that's not going to happen. So when they impeach Joe Biden, which is a possibility, I have to explain why I'm still saying this possibility, not totally a lock on this. But they don't want to mention that this will happen, and that all will happen is that Joe Biden will join the short list of people that were impeached. Joe Biden, Donald Trump twice, Bill Clinton, and Andrew Johnson, the president after Lincoln, who was a corrupt little shit who was still in favor of the Confederacy and did a lot of shit to undermine Reconstruction and the rights of freed blacks. But be that as it may. So when you think about it, why do it and why do it now when you know it's not going to succeed? Politics, once again. They hope that Joe Biden, if impeached, will damage him on the way into the heat of the election next year. That he'll go in as an impeached president. First of all, more than likely, he will be facing Donald Trump, a two-time impeached former president who was under multiple indictments, who at the time of it being heavy in the campaign, will be on the risk of various criminal cases that he could lose. Talk about perceptual issues there. I made it clear the past few times, and I'm going to make it clear again, just in case people think that I'm being pro-Biden here. I am not voting for Biden. I think he is full of shit when it comes to the border. And some things I may agree with, some things I disagree with, but the fact of the matter is that he is constantly going to be blood in the water because he is in decline. There's nothing against him for that. I mean, this is like human nature thing. Trump is in decline. If you really want to go after Biden for his age and his cognitive issues, if he has any, and ignore Trump at his age and his cognitive issues, then you're also a political hack. That you're just a bandwagon rider that is not taking any of this shit seriously. It's just, own those libs. So I don't think that him being impeached, Biden, is going to affect negatively towards him. There's a lot of things that are negative on him, but I don't think that counteracts the negatives of Trump, nor any of those poor people that go to the Republican debates as if they were ever going to be nominated. That's another story. Actually, I want to make that into another video, because I want to get into that on its own, for respect of that particular topic. So why are they doing this? What is the political metric involved in this? To make themselves feel better? That they impeached him! Yay! To tell their supporters, who they hope did not take a civics class, that they impeached him. Yay! Oh, don't ignore that whole Senate thing. That has nothing to do with us. Just like any of the policies that they tout that they passed. We're keeping our promises that die in the Senate. What's the metric? Is the metric perhaps that they want him impeached, and that so that when they get to the next election cycle and they hope to win Senate seats, that they can impeach him fully? Did they make the metrics that Joe Biden would beat Donald Trump? It's far-fetched, because I don't disagree that Joe Biden can't beat Donald Trump. Because I don't think that, first of all, I don't think Joe Biden beat Donald Trump last time. Not saying that he didn't win the presidency. He absolutely did win the presidency by the majority, a sheer staggering majority of votes. He's legitimately the president. What I mean to say that he didn't beat Donald Trump is that, no, he didn't. Donald Trump beat Donald Trump. Donald Trump, being a unqualified, disqualifying piece of shit, beat him by millions of votes. And remember, Donald Trump didn't have the majority vote last time, in 2016. And he sure as hell didn't have it this time. All of Trump's antics from 2020, from his involvement in January 6th. If you deny that, go watch something else. Go watch something else. If you deny that through his inaction to not wanting to call the National Guard, to him and his gerbils revving the crowd up, saying that, march on the Capitol, I'll march with you, and then had to be physically restrained from actually driving the car towards the Capitol, because that was a full of shit move. Telling Kevin McCarthy, when Kevin McCarthy was telling him about the riot, and it's like, well, looks like they're fighting for me harder than you are. He's involved. From the fake electors that's now come to light, and from the laundry list of these indictments, some of them while he was president, and him taking documents home. Once again, the difference between Joe Biden and Trump is that when documents were found at Biden's places, it was Biden's people finding them, and it was Biden's people giving them back, while Trump was hiding his shit. It's not going to be a slam dunk for Trump to beat Biden. It's not going to be a slam dunk for Biden to beat Trump. In fact, if there was another Democratic candidate that I hope and pray that someone would step up to do so, that would be the end of Trump. Because that would be someone not coming in as damaged as Biden. But the one thing about the unfortunate thing about the Democratic Party in terms of its institution, of its national DNC, is that it was like almost the same thing that we would talk about the Republicans back in the early 2000s and so forth. How they're so old and they just have this liver-spotted grip on the gears of power. They don't want to have another mind, another thought process on the helm. They want that establishment. They want that centrist. That calming influence of status quo. But the problem is that status quo is dying. These are 20th century people in the 21st century world. And we're in a post-Trump era that we cannot go back. We have to evolve from where we are. And I'm sorry to say, which is another one of the reasons why I'm not voting for Biden. Biden is not going to be there for that. He's not going to be the representation of those democratic ideals we all thought that we were in the party to support. If all we're doing is status quoing and limping along into the next election, we are not doing any progress. Alright, that's before I really hit an hour. I think I am done with this. Ranter rants. The urge to rant is always rising. So, what do you think? Does me being mad bring out my eyes? Bye.